So, class, based on last night's reading, what do we think of Freud's theory of the id, ego, and the superego? Come on, don't all speak up at once now. Oh, yes, our star student. Seems like you have something to say. You are correct. The id, ego, and superego make up what has been defined as the human psyche, our sense of self, so to speak. Now, imagine this iceberg floating in the water, dissected into three parts. Assuming that above the water is the conscious thought, and below the water, the subconscious. Where would each of these go? Right, beneath the water sits the id, completely hidden from the rest of the world. It is our base nature, our wants, desires, all that raunchy stuff. The id is the impulsive and unconscious part of our psyche that responds immediately to what we want. Food, sleep, games, anime, sex. It's nothing to be ashamed of. We all have baser instincts that need to be achieved to some degree or another. For this matter, when the id achieves its demands, we experience pleasure. And when it's denied, displeasure. Miss, since you seem to be the only one who did last night's assignment, why don't you tell us about a personal experience in which you satisfied your id? Come now, don't be shy. I'm not your parent, after all. A party last weekend, or a passionate night with a partner. No partner, That's unfortunate. Well, how about this? I've seen you carry a large sketchpad to class every lecture. Do you enjoy art? And what is it that you like about art? The ability to freely express yourself. How poetic. Yes, it's unfortunate that we often have to hide portions of ourselves that are more raw. What are some of the things that you enjoy drawing, then? There's no need to be shy, miss. The only risk is the possible judgment of 30-some of your peers, some of which may grow to have significant impact on whatever future career you might pursue. But, honestly, there must be something in that sketchbook that is, let's say, tame enough that you'd be able to share with the class. You've got something. Ladies and gents, please give the young lady a round of applause for her bravery. Look out, y'all. Here comes the bondage stuff. Poor joke, poor joke. Apologies. You found one. Oh, isn't this one just delightful? A lone girl seated by a window in a cottage. I can practically feel the calm washing over me when I think about when you first created this. And would you say you felt pleasure when you made this? Now, pleasure isn't always linked with sexual intention, even though it is quite often. The pleasure that comes from creating a world that is truly yours can exist in its simplest form. That in mind, would you say you experienced pleasure by satisfying this part of your id? Wonderful. Thank you for allowing me to embarrass you for a moment there. Here's your creation back. Oh, there's something drawn on the back here. Oh, that's neat. I wore a coat like this at the start of the semester. I could almost swear... Wait, is this... Anyways, miss, here's your piece back. Thank you. Anyways, moving on. Just above the surface of the water, we have the ego. Now, what is the ego? Does anyone know? Right, the rationale. The logic that balances out the baser instincts we possess. That little voice that tells us not to climb on top of these very desks in this lecture hall and begin copulating. Restraints. Yes. Ego is the restraint that stops the id from giving in to indulgences, no matter how much one may wish to act. Alright, that's all for today. Do make sure to read your assigned text this weekend. I'm afraid we've barely scratched the surface of what the ego is today. And do remind me to address the superego as well. This material will be part of your term paper, so it is important to be very familiar with this. Miss, do you mind staying back for a moment? Yes. I wanted to apologize for singling you out in the class. It was not my intent to embarrass you. I'm glad no harm was done. And I assume that I was, not supposed to see the art on the other side of that page. Would I be mistaken to say that the character on the page was meant to be me? Yes, well, I only ask because the character on the page happened to be in quite a, compromising position. Don't worry. You're not in any trouble, so please don't apologize. It's shocking, because I had always assumed that you were more of a good girl. What? Why are you blushing? Did that trigger something in you? Being called a good girl? Well, miss, I think it's best to show restraint in a situation like this. It'd be irresponsible to listen to our ids right now. Even though I'd like to... No. There is a level of professionalism that we should maintain. A level of professionalism that we are sworn to upkeep. Yes, I have noticed you in class. Not only are you the most attentive student I have, maintaining rapt attention during even the more admittedly dry material, but also dressed in such thought-provoking attire. Yes, modest, but not prudish. It's not necessarily the way you dress, but the way you cross your legs and sit up straight, pushing your chest outward whenever my eyes happen to linger on you. You've even dropped a pen in front of me a few times and bent over to show me your cleavage. And you thought I didn't notice him. Constantly testing my restraint, and now that I know you've been drawing me, well... Miss, let me ask you a question. That's not the only time you've drawn me, is it? You've drawn me many times, haven't you? Tell me the truth. You're a good girl, aren't you? Exactly. My best student. My favorite student. My good little teacher's pets. Oh. How many times? Show me. Oh my. You've really let your imagination run wild with these, haven't you? Truly indulging your id. Now tell me. Did you feel pleasure when creating these pieces? I'm sure you did. Well, I have a proposal for you then. Make another one. Yes, make another one while I'm here. I'll model for you. I can even model in the nude. Does that sound enticing? showing me how you satisfy your id. Good girl. Well, I'm going to go lock the door now. Most of the campus is empty, but we wouldn't want anyone stumbling across our little project, would we? For that reason, we may need to be a little more silent. But I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.